Hello, Flo.
Hey Gareth, how are you?
Hi.
Hey. So first, before I introduce you, I wanna say the block height number is 864632, and you're listening to The Art of Freedom. Today, well, I'm Flo Montoya, and today, sadly, Rebel can't join us, but we'll try. We'll miss him, but we'll try to have a very cool chapter with you, Gareth. So, how are you?
I'm good. Okay, so you're in sunny Chile right now?
Yes, yes, I'm like having such a beautiful day today, very sunny.
Yeah.
We do have like cold winters, but summer is coming here, so I'm so happy about it. How about
Yeah,
you?
we have a glorious sunny day here, and it's just a beautiful kind of fall that we're having.
Lovely. Hey, Gareth. So, I want to start our conversation by maybe you can let us know like more about your background, both how did you find about Bitcoin, and also how did this path cross over with your artistic background, and yeah, where did that started?
Yes. Well, it's sort of. I guess I've kind of had a pretty full life already. So I just celebrated my 61st birthday. So When when I'm asked to sort of talk about my background, I'm like, okay, well, do you have 3 hours? And I don't think you do. So I'll do a sort of fast, sort of edited version. So I grew up in Wales. I grew up as a farmer's son. We had pigs and we had sheep. So a lot of my life was being spent shoveling muck, or sort of working with the sheepdogs sort of on the farm. So actually a pretty good upbringing, I feel. And how did I get into what I'm doing? Carving gemstones as a sort of a farmer's son is probably the most unlikeliest thing you could think of. I was that guy. If you went to the beach, I was the little boy who was picking pebbles off the beach and trying to find agates or quartz or something that looked pretty. I got into wanting to cut and polish them, and at the age of about 12, I persuaded my parents to buy me a combination lapidary machine, which kind of looked like a giant sort of grinder with numerous wheels, and it became my hobby. So evenings, weekends, whenever I didn't have farm chores or school chores, I'd be working away, cutting and polishing stones. Um, the interesting thing about that was we had an old house that was built in sort of the 16th century, and we were living in a new house that was built in sort of like the 1960s on the property. And often I'd be working right into the 9 o'clock or something, and it get very dark. And I swear that place was haunted because sometimes I'd be cutting a stone and I'd just feel some presence coming up behind me. So I would quickly shut off the machine and I'd run out the door and up the hill up to the farm. So I got quite a lot of interesting stories that I probably don't have time to share here. And then going on from there, um, I went to college at the age of 17, art college, and it's specifically a jeweler's. It was known for their course for jewelry and silversmithing. So we did 4 years of. I was silversmithing, I was goldsmithing, I was hand engraving, I was designing jewelry, everything but the gemstone carving. The gemstone cutting and carving has always been something I've done just myself and sort of self taught with that. So many years doing that, 4 years to do that. And one of the things we talk about in the jewelers field, those of us that actually make or work with our hands, is this period of training of mastering your craft is about 10 years long. So for the first 10 years of sort of that work in life, you're literally just trying to get as much experience as possible and develop your skills to get them to be as good as you can. And it's quite an interesting transition from that to being an artist. And my work was always evaluated by people looking at it with a 10x lens or through a low power microscope just to make sure it's perfect. So my whole ethos has been it has to be perfect. And then you come to the art world, and um, it's the power of the idea, and it's the power of um, do people like what you're doing, your philosophy, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, how original are you, how creative are you, rather than have you made this with absolute perfection. So it's been quite an interesting sort of, that's one of the threads of the journey that I've had.
Do you think that um like having this training all these years, like working on your craft and developing these skills, and also like seeking this perfection that has to do with how we handle materials and techniques and all of that, had anything to do with you discovering Bitcoin? Because I see some similarities there, like in the Bitcoin ethos, proof of work, and all of that. Do you think that kind of might have had anything to do with that?
Um, yes, I think I'll explain a little bit more about the work that I did for a couple of minutes, and then I think I can bring in why I responded to Bitcoin so strongly. And you hear a lot of people talk about how they have meaningless jobs in the fiat world, and they hate their work, and if it's no value, and they just hate everything. And I'm kind of always been the opposite to that. My work has had an incredible amount of meaning to me and to the people I've worked with. There's nothing more emotional as far as an attachment goes than jewelry. So imagine you make a diamond ring. Say I'm asked to make a diamond solitaire ring, and that's going to be the engagement ring. So I make that as well as I can. When the when that is put on the finger of the woman during the proposal, it suddenly becomes something completely different. It's not just an object, it's now it's an attachment has been formed to that piece. And so when you're jewelers, you kind of realize that your part of it is only the first half of the experience. The second half of the experience is how that piece has an impact in the lives of the people that wear it. So you get that when you do engagement and wedding rings. Often you're quite involved with these very emotional and life changing sort of moments for people. Um, but I ended up doing portrait carving, and it's such a small field that I'm in. I could name every single person that's working in the field probably just on my 10 digits. And to do it, you need to have really well developed gems carving skills, um, the classical training, or you've done the time to learn your anatomy and practice that. And the artist cannot see what they don't know is there. So something like the lacrimal gland above the eye, that's the little gland, it's the little bump above your eye that basically produces the tears for you. Now, if you don't know it's there because you haven't studied anatomy, and you're trying to do a portrait of someone, you won't put that little bump in. And then the eye always looks like they're surprised, like they've just seen something horrific. And you can't get away from it. And because you don't know it's there, you haven't put it in. And it sounds kind of, if you talk to people who do portrait work, they sort of know all about that. And so what I ended up doing, concentrating on the portrait work, is I would be involved in some incredibly emotional stories. probably 60 to 70% of my customers were contacting me because there had been a tragic accident or an illness and their child had passed on. And either the mother was asking me to make something or the father, and they were investing in me that I would make a carving that would show their daughter or their son in a lovely sort of pendant or something that they could wear close to their heart. So that kind of work is, I can't think of anything that is more meaningful and impactful than the kind of work that I was asked to do sort of on a daily basis. And it was sort of done 25 years of doing those portrait carvings where basically I always felt each day that my career had, my work had a lot of meaning. And so and it was important, and it certainly wasn't feared. There was a lot of proof of work, and you have to make it perfect, and you're working to try and not only do an accurate portrait from a photograph, which isn't that easy because the camera distorts, so you have to correct for all the lens flare, all that kind of stuff. You also have to. My goal with that would be that when the mother saw the portrait, she would see in that carving how she feels when she looks on her daughter. And so there was a kind of trying to get enough background on them to try and, was she happy? Was she serious? Was she, did she always have like a cheeky grin? That kind of thing that might not actually be in the photograph they sent you, but I had to imbue that spirit into the carving. So I got into some very, very deep work there. And I think that primed me for realizing that Bitcoin was something of depth and importance. I was just giving you a chance to
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off because I'm
ask a question or
really
something.
so sorry. I'm enjoying,
Yeah,
enjoying so much what you're saying, so I didn't want to like be interrupting you.
no problem. I find spaces hard because if it's a video chat, you can see when someone wants to, break into the conversation or ask a question or something. And with spaces, you don't have that feedback, so it's like, oh, well, okay, we'll go to dead air for 5 seconds
Yeah, no,
and see if someone jumps in. So
but yeah, we try not to interrupt.
it's a tricky technology. So
Yeah, it's like how you feel. But I had just have a feeling like I'm really enjoying how you are also telling us this like story. And yeah, I think it's very interesting how you have portrayed it, because I have never been very good for commissions. And I know in different areas or crafts, it's like very different. And I see the beauty you are describing into these commissions, into these very special pieces that have so much meaning for the person who is contacting you. And it's how hard I mean, if you have done that like a lot over the years, it must be also a very weird or like a strange maybe change to now, like now you're producing your pieces from your inner like needs or ideas, however we call it. So I find it very interesting, that change. And yeah, it's like you're not, like you're still celebrating these pieces that you did in the past, which I think is amazing. And but now you're trying something new, so I would love to hear more about that.
yeah, and so what happened to Bitcoin is I've always listened to stories or podcasts sort of while I worked, and gradually started stumbling into some Bitcoin content. And initially in 2017, I thought, oh, I can make some money out of this. And so I did buy some Bitcoin. I only held it for 3 months. I sold it December, and I think I pretty much caught the top of 20,000, and I thought, okay, that's a good trade, doubled my money, and I kind of completely forgot about it, moved on to other things. And about a year later, around the whole COVID thing, I just started discovering Bitcoin content again, um, and then started to realize that there's this whole deeper philosophy there, and people talking about sort of subjects and topics, sort of about how the world works, why everything is so broken, and why are people so unhappy? Why is life so hard for people? Financially and everything else, and starting to realize, oh, it's the money. Okay, so starting to dive into that and realizing just how fake our kind of fiat world is, and that Bitcoin is real and it's meaningful, and it just sort of naturally mapped onto how my work was and how I approached my work, to thinking, oh, okay, it felt like it was an important space to be part of. And I also had a crisis a couple of years ago, and I'll be fully open about this. My ability to do this fine portrait work went away. But I still had a business doing it. And so I had, for 3 years, 21, so around about 2020 through to 23, I had some very difficult work years where I had gone from being able to do this portrait work easily to suddenly I couldn't see the piece properly. Um, it was an absolute disaster. So ended up having to close the business down. I had already started making some Bitcoin pieces. So it was a natural transition. It's like, okay, I can't do this portrait work anymore. I just have to draw a line under it and move on to something else. I still have my gem carving ability. I can carve a lion. I can carve an eagle. The orders of degree of difficulty much easier than trying to imbue that spirit into a portrait. One of the most difficult portraits I ever did was a father sent me a picture of his daughter, and she was in the middle of chemotherapy, and she had a scarf on because her hair dropped out and stuff. And he had this picture of her, and it was his favorite picture of her. And it was so hard because you were looking into her eyes, and you could see that she knew that she was not going to be around for much longer. And I had to carve this portrait to get that across, but also try and imbue some kind of hope in there and spirit in there. And that was that one impacted me quite a lot, actually. Sort of, I would get quite involved, long phone calls with the parents, and talking about, how tell me as much as you can about the person so that I can do justice to this. So when that ability went, I was like, okay, I need to pivot, and I need to pivot hard. I had already started doing the Bitcoin art, and funny enough, what had happened was maybe I'd scheduled the morning to do a design for a pendant for a cameo, and I would find I had been listening to a podcast. And the very first time it happened, the first piece I did was based on the Bitcoin spiral, that was based on Rational Root had shared some of Clockwork's work on turning the price chart of Bitcoin over time and making it a spiral. So it would actually work as a clockwise piece. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, I've got to make that. And so while I was supposed to be doing my day job of working on this design, I actually couldn't help myself. And I spent 3 hours developing and working on the design for the Bitcoin spiral, which became my first piece. So it was the sort of combination of being forced to pivot, but I'd already decided that this was what my passion had switched onto doing work in the Bitcoin space. I'll let you jump in now.
Yeah, I've seen that work, and it's really intricate. And I remember when you started. Well, when I saw it, I don't know if it was like the time you were posting about it. Um, I think I found you last year, not exactly when you started,
Yeah.
and I think you were also working on your Pepe, which I find super like very funny because it's like you have these very classical skills, but you're also like embracing the popular culture that's emerging from all this. So I would love to hear about that piece and how it was like combining these two things, like the more easy, more fun, more playful aspects of this culture, but also actually producing the piece with all the skills you have gained over the years.
Yeah, Pepe is great. I've actually always had a sense of humor, and with many of the pieces that I've done over the years, I've tried to have like a touch of whimsy or something that would make someone smile, sort of when they looked at it. And I kept thinking, I've got to do something with Pepe. Um, but my whole life I've been trying to make things as perfect as possible, and I'm working with beautiful materials, gemstones. So I'm naturally making pieces or jewelry that is beautiful to look at, and that's always been what I've striven to do. And so I was thinking, well, what can I do with Pepe? Because to be honest, he's pretty ugly, and I don't know if I carve a stone with an ugly picture of Pepe that it's going to work. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy the process, and I also don't know if anybody would want to own that. And so I sort of had a different idea. My thought was I had an image of Pepe lying on the beach. He's got a suitcase next to him, which has got his stash of Bitcoin, his private keys in, that kind of thing, and he's just wearing a Panama hat, and he's basically just retired. He's got his stash, and he's hodled, and he's very happy. And I had that image, and I thought, okay, Zen of Pepe, maybe. So I kind of thought of, okay, an elegant version of Pepe. So that's what I can do there. And the other idea I'd had at the same time, I usually have about 3 themes in a piece that I do. It's either 3 materials or 3 sort of design themes in there. Um, I had I had the idea of Pepe having laser eyes. And I thought, well, I can get a star ruby or a cut stone and fit them in. Watermelon tourmaline I was going to put into his eyes. So his eyes would look like laser eyes. And then I realized after that it would actually be better and more transformational if he had special glasses that he put on. So he was like his normal Pepe, and then he puts on these glasses and he's Bitcoin Pepe. So the glasses were kind of based on John Lennon. So they're round glasses. So I got myself some pictures of John Lennon wearing the glasses. I had some watermelon tourmaline, which is a beautiful stone. It's a very interesting mineral in a number of ways. And what this looks like, it first grows as a tall crystal that's sort of a raspberry red color. And then as it's growing, there's a chemical change that happens. The mixture kind of changes its properties a bit, and it becomes green. So if you slice it right across, it's like you've just sliced a watermelon. You've got a pink red center and a green outside. And I thought, well, that's perfect for laser eyes. It's like the pupils are red, and then you got a different color for the outside. And so I made these glasses, which are they have watermelon tourmaline laser eye pupils. The silver for the rest of the eye has a spiral pattern on, kind of like in the 1960s when people would sort of, if they're on acid or something, they draw them like they had spirals in their eyes. And I'm like, okay, this gets over the narrative that Pepe has discovered Bitcoin. His mind has been blown by it. He's now got laser eyes. John Lennon glasses work well to fit on the green serpentine carving of Pepe that I have, and then added a few details to the frame. And to be different, I wanted to do something different on this, so I engraved the very first Bitcoin hash for the very first transaction on the inside of the glasses. And I know a lot of people are doing things from the first Genesis block, and I wanted to do something different. So that's kind of the philosophy of how Bitcoin Pepe came in. There's story narratives behind everything that I do, and I try deliberately to use the power of three, 6, and 9 as repeatable elements in most pieces that I do.
That's very interesting. I hadn't realized like you had that very structured way of like choosing these elements, and I find it very very like a very interesting approach on handling each piece. And moving to another piece that it really caught my attention. You were playing with a banana. I saw that it went very bad, but what I didn't realize at the moment is that you also did a jewelry piece, like connecting these concepts. And I would love to
Yeah,
hear more about that one.
yes, the Bitcoin banana. It's unfinished at the moment, so I finished the jewelry part of it, and I haven't put together the piece around the Bitcoin banana. So that was inspired. I think most people know the story of the artist who taped a banana onto a white wall in a gallery, and then basically, I think he sold it for 100,000 at a time, and it's gone on to become famous. And a lot of people throw hate on the artist for being so feared and everything else, but he was actually making a commentary on the state of the art world by doing this, saying you can just put any old stuff up on there and people will pay for it. And I love the narrative behind that, and I love the idea of I wanted to do something completely opposite, because everything I work with is going to last for thousands of years. So stones don't really deteriorate over time. So pieces that I've carved now will be around, I don't know, maybe 10,000, 100,000 years from now, someone might, dig up my Bitcoin bull, and it's still intact and everything is still there. So I thought I wanted to push my boundaries by doing something that was deliberately going to disappear within 3 weeks. And so I had the idea of doing the banana. And so basically what I did was taped a banana onto a black canvas. First of all, I took a Sharpie and I wrote onto the banana skin all of the bad actors that we've had in the Bitcoin space. So I've got Craig Wright, FTX, I've got Celsius there, I've got the names of some of the hackers, the guy from Quadriga in Canada who kind of blew up people's accounts. Basically, I wanted the idea of that it could be like a cleansing experience. So I'm going to write on all these horrible people onto this banana, and then I'm going to take a video and a photograph of it every day, with the aim of making a poster that has everything in a grid and starting the perfect banana on day 1 and the things rotten away on day 21. And so that's in the works. It just needs me to spend a couple of days in Photoshop to kind of put it all together. And the other part of it is I took a video diary where each day I would talk about how the banana was deteriorating, if at all, because for the first few days almost nothing happened, and then talk about the people, the bad actors. So there'll be a long form video, there'll be a video diary, and there'll be like a poster of it. And I thought, well, that's the fiat banana, and that's the reason those bad actors kind of destroyed the accounts of so many Bitcoiners was they weren't true Bitcoiners. They had this fiat attitude of, I'm going to steal money from someone else. Okay, how do I do it? Okay, I'll do a fake exchange, or I'll hack this exchange and just steal the coins from people. If you didn't have the names of these people who were on the banana, there are an awful lot of Bitcoiners, especially from the early days, Mt. Gox, who would have a lot more Bitcoin than they do now. And so during the later parts of my video, some of my anger towards these people started to come out in the video. So it's quite interesting. When I put them together, it'll be like, oh, okay, Gareth's getting a bit unhinged and going on a rant here.
I really like
And so,
that idea. Sorry.
yeah,
I think
no, I was just going to explain the Bitcoin banana, the actual pendant that I did. Um, what I did there was I made silver tape. It's a brass banana. It's on black onyx. It's made to look exactly like it's a banana on canvas. So it mirrors the art piece. But the tape says "hodl fast," and this is a banana that will last for thousands of years. It's not going to rot away. It's because they've taken the right attitude and approach Bitcoin with integrity and thinking of the long term, that this value holds good. So that's the sort of story behind that one.
yeah, I really like how those actions connect, and how you're playing also here, like you said, with different materials, with different experiences, like pushing the boundaries. And I also find very interesting, while you were talking, I was like thinking all the time, well, Bitcoin is time. So every time, like, we play with the idea of time, when you say that this your pieces will last millions of years, like, how many years will the Bitcoin blockchain will be perfectly up and running? And when you start to think of those things, it's really interesting to take that down to the materials. And when we do like this more of I don't know if this is the correct word, but like ephemeral kind of pieces that go away.
Yeah, ephemeral. Yeah,
Ephemeral, thank you. um, I just find it like extremely interesting. It's like when people do street art, you put up your work in the streets and then it disappears whenever, like, you have no control about it. And
yes.
it's a very very special experience. And before we continue, I want to invite anyone who wants to join us in the conversation, who wants to ask questions, please do. This is the idea of joining us live, so I hope you do. um yeah, and I wanted to ask you about, in your experience, like coming from the jewelry world and all you know, what would you recommend someone who is like starting, or who wants to join that world, the jewelry in general, but also like in a Bitcoiner perspective?
Um, as in sort of making Bitcoin themed jewelry, or just wanting to be a general jeweler.
I think in general, like, if someone is thinking of doing this for a living, or learning these skills, or what would you recommend someone who's starting, but always from a Bitcoiner perspective, in the sense that we know that some of the fields we regularly work, like in the normie world, um, they have, like, I don't know if you see the same, but they are like a bit rigged. But we know that Bitcoin is already making a difference in those aspects. I would say, like, I think artists have a much better chance now that Bitcoin exists. So I'm just wondering, like, what would you recommend someone, if someone is listening and wants to start a jeweler career? or something like that? Like how should he approach it, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that, because there's so much technology now in jewelry. You know, jewelry's been designed on in like CAD programs now, and it's being reproduced via CAD CAM, or um, I'm old fashioned in that I learned all the hand skills, and so I do the hand skills. I do have a jewelry design program. I've had it for about 5 years, and it cost me 10,000. I still haven't put the time in to learn it, because it's probably 6 months to a year to learn how to do it properly. It's yeah, it's a difficult trade. Oh, there's an awful lot of YouTube videos that are really interesting. There are some people doing jewelry colleges. I just saw a series of videos about one the other day, and this is in Italy, and it's just amazing, the skills that they're teaching people. And there's it's I'm kind of struggling a bit with this one, because it's going to change so much. And to be financial, you can make jewelry as a hobby anytime. But if you wanted to choose it as a career, I think AI and manufacturing is going to change so much. It already is. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I don't know if the traditional bench jeweler is going to have um, any hope of being financially viable, actually. So it's a bit negative, I'm afraid.
No, it's okay. Maybe we will say that um, it's like it's time to start learning those techniques, those new stuff. And but I do think people do appreciate handmade stuff. Most like I've heard that so much, like, oh, with the IE generating images, no one will care for visual artists. But actually that doesn't happen. Like it's just different
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of tool. And people who is mastering the IE, or how is it called, like, yeah, the artificial intelligence, AI,
AI.
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's like, it's for me, as I see it, it's like when the photography appeared in the world and people said like, oh, where painters are gonna die and starve now because we have a photography. But
Yeah.
it's actually a different separate field, like a different technique, and some people appreciate it, some don't. And like, don't you think something like that might also happen?
Yes. Yes. And I'm just not sure what I would advise an 18-year-old wanting to start right now
Hmm.
to do.
It's a
Yeah.
hard field. Yeah.
uh, yes. I am doing some. I am going to be bringing out some sort of small jewelry collections. I'm not that interested in being like a production jeweler, but I love designing, and I have some jewelry design ideas that I want to see out there in the world, and I think people will respond to them nicely. So I the one I'm working on right now, and I will actually be using CAD CAM. I'm going to work with someone so that I can produce these at a sort of reasonable price, and still make a profit on them. And so coming back to the Bitcoin price spiral, I had the idea for a while, is can you combine the calendar, because I love the work that they're doing at Time Chain Canada, with the Bitcoin price spiral? And could that be a pin or a pendant? And so the idea is that going to make a three-dimensional version of the Bitcoin price spiral. So imagine it's on edge, and you're going to slot into there a star ruby about 5 millimeters across, and you're going to position that exactly where you first bought your Bitcoin. So if you bought in 2013, you would position that ruby, and I would solder in a collet and set the ruby, the part of the price spiral that relates to, say, September 2013, if that's when you got it. So I'd work alongside with the time chain calendar with that. And I think that could be really, I think it'll look really good. It's so personal. Um, You'll be able to show it to people. It's the kind of thing that the one thing, the power I think that the jewelry or beautiful objects can have is to orange pill. It's very hard to persuade people. Look, you've got it all wrong. Everything you think about money and the world is wrong, and Bitcoin's the way, and you're being lied to here and there, and everything else. Because it's so challenging to them. But if you're wearing something that looks really beautiful and it's actually showing the date when you got first Bitcoin, someone might see that and say, "God, that looks great. I love it. What is it?" And you'll say, "Oh, well, this is it. I started my Bitcoin journey where this star ruby is on the gold Bitcoin spiral." And then you've got a chance to talk more about Bitcoin. They've already being kind of won over by the fact that you're wearing something that looks beautiful and it's Bitcoin related. So someone might say, well, why would an artist spend their time making this? And the answer is that they actually believe enough in the whole community ecosystem, the math, everything behind Bitcoin, enough to spend their precious time making something like this. And I think visual art in general, or the work that Bitcoin artists are doing, we're actually very important to Bitcoin adoption and to orange pilling. I remember being in Madeira, seeing your work, seeing Rebel's work, seeing, well, everybody who was there. And I could see many people who aren't Bitcoiners thinking, oh, that's beautiful. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to have that in my house. And then I'll explain to people, well, the reason behind it. And you started the orange pilling process in a much easier way than basically talk someone into it, which I think is actually quite hard to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's been very interesting having people who like don't really care much about Bitcoin to have questions that like especially like you said, like why are you doing art about Bitcoin? Like how does it make
Yes. Why are
sense?
you wasting your time?
Yeah. And actually, like one of my mom's like closest friends one day came, like my whole family is a Bitcoiner, so my family gets what I'm doing. But this friend comes to my mom and she says, um hey, how are you doing? I'm so sorry that Flo is wasting all her like her skills and abilities and is just doing this Bitcoin thing. She couldn't like she couldn't put
Yes.
it in her head like I'm wasting, like she thinks she's also an artist, so she thinks I'm good, but she thinks like it's so sad that I'm wasting these
Yes.
abilities. So well, yeah, but it's a journey, like everyone gets it when they get it. But I do think we have an opportunity here with what we do with art to actually put that question in people's. It doesn't really matter. Like all I what I've seen, like every artist, every piece that I've seen in the Bitcoin ecosystem, I believe the artists put a lot of head and thought and effort and skills on building. But just by existing, like you didn't even really didn't need that much to put that question into into people's minds so that they will like really wonder like how how does this make sense, like why are you doing art about some crypto they don't even know the difference, like some crypto money in the internet. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite interesting. I'd like to talk a little bit about the business of Bitcoin artists, because
Mhm.
we're actually trying to do a very difficult thing here. And I shared a common meme onto my Twitter feed the other day, which was basically, here's your true Bitcoiner, and this person has got a bed on the floor, he's got a television, and there's almost nothing else in his apartment because he's spending every single possible dollar that he earns, or pound or whatever it is, on stacking his Bitcoin. And I posted, okay, is this my customer? Because obviously the answer is no. So there's I had I've got someone coming in who's going to start doing video work for me and filming work, um, and developing my YouTube channel. So he was here on Friday, and we had a good long discussion about this. He isn't a Bitcoiner, but he appreciates art. And so he was saying, so who's your target audience? And I was like, oh, I haven't really thought it through. It was Bitcoiners. And I said, but then it's Bitcoiners who aren't stacking aggressively and will not spend any money on anything else. So it's Bitcoiners that are quite happy to spend their Bitcoin on Bitcoin art or something. And so it started to help to clarify some things, thinking, okay, so who am I trying to sell to here? And it's something I haven't actually been that analytical about it. I've been making things that excite me, and I finish it and I put it up, and I like, okay, I hope someone likes it, kind of thing. And so he said, so basically you're just throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. And I was like, I guess maybe so. It was quite an uncomfortable conversation, but I had time to think about it later, and I think, um, I think by all means put your message out there to everyone, and Bitcoiners who are early in their journey will see what you're doing and like it, possibly share it. It all helps. You're sort of trying to build trust and authority and reach and your followers and your network and all of that stuff. But I think if I was to narrow down who my audiences, who my customers are, I'm thinking about the business side of it. I think it's usually people who have been in the space, probably been through 2 4-year cycles. They do have a good stack of Bitcoin, but they're also philosophically, they want to share the growth of the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I think of someone like Ben Perrin, at BTC Sessions, and he has that attitude of share this around. Madex has the same attitude. Talks about paying his plumber in Bitcoin so that his Bitcoin plumber stays in business over the years and gets wealthy, so that he'll always be there to sort of help him. And so I think it gave me clarity over, okay, these are the people that I need to reach. And it's quite interesting at Madeira, when Jack Mallers gave his talk, he did this one thing where he said, don't buy Bitcoin art, because I bought, I spent 5 Bitcoins on some piece of art 5 years ago, and yeah, it's nice, but I'll never get my 5 Bitcoins back. And I remember Fractal was in the audience and he booed him, said, no, you're all wrong, kind of thing. And it is an interesting dilemma, because you're trying to sell to people who think, if I just don't buy it now, I'll have my Bitcoin will be worth twice as much when the God candle comes in, or 10 times as much in 2 years. And then I'll come back, and then I can buy all the art I want then. So we do have this. The I think the real plus side with the Bitcoin space is that it's so honest. The fiat art world, there's no chance that someone like myself could break into that. There is so much stuff that goes on in that world. The Bitcoin art space, you make something that's really good, and you do that consistently, people are going to notice, they're going to follow, they're going to start buying some of your work, and they're going to tell other people what they've got. This is a great space for those who have something of real value to offer. And I think you're going to find more people maybe like myself, who've had a previous career, who are thinking, I can do this. Yeah, you could find someone who's superb, or I don't know, working with wood or something that comes into the Bitcoin space and starts to build a career here. So I think we're gonna, in the next 5 years, we're gonna have a lot more people, like dozens of people who are very skilled in their own field, who are now becoming Bitcoiners and working in the Bitcoin field. So I think the future is very bright. But I do feel there's a little bit right now of you just gotta hang in there until it takes off.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
about the collectors. What the feeling I have is that it's not that we are like tricking them into giving us their sats, and then like our art will be like I don't know, less expensive, because I think they know. And the thing is, I really think Bitcoiners understand that. Bitcoiners understand that things are losing their monetary premium. So what I see is people betting on us and supporting us. And my first collectors, like the people who bought my art in 2020, is the people that helps me now get to these amazing conferences, to be able to display more pieces, to be able to create more pieces, to have the freedom to create, because that's so hard. Like I've always had to have part-time jobs, and I still do, but now I can really choose a job that I like, that gives me freedom to create and to, I don't know, travel. In the past I couldn't do that. And that's like, it's a combination of course Bitcoin first, and then the collectors who want to see that in the world. So people don't only want to have like a lot of Bitcoin and I don't know, riches, which it's cool. But I think people do want to see a more beautiful, more bright world, with more art creations and with more creativity. I read something, I don't know if it was like yesterday, it was a small quote. Someone said like, um, people tend to complain when you see like a rich kid's like a rich kid who is into art, and you say like, oh, it's privilege. But maybe it's different. It's like when you've got your needs covered, when you are free, you tend to choose art, or you tend to choose whatever it truly makes you happy. I really like that new perspective on that, and I think it has value. So yeah, it's hard, and our
Yeah,
public
I
figures.
think
Mhm.
I'd like to contribute the story of when I was about 23. I was in Wales and I'd opened up a studio, and so I was designing jewelry and working with people in the area, and had quite a good sized studio in town, quite nice. And there's a knock on a door. I open it up, and there's this woman there, and she's in jeans and sort of like sandals, nice shirt, and she's probably in her, I think she's around about 60 then. And I looked at her and I thought, she's wearing natural pearls. Um, there's a look that natural pearls have that cultured pearls don't have. And her earrings, and she had this amazing pearl necklace on. And so I invited her in. We had a cup of tea and we just chatted about this and that. And then she invited me up to her place and visited a week later. And it turned out that she was Lady Gibson Watt. So she was the local Lord and Lady of the Manor. Um, fabulous person, one of the nicest people I'd ever met, and she had this noblesse oblige. Oblige. I butcher so many words in so many languages, but basically, the landed gentry or old money in the UK had this attitude that they should use their money or part of it to help the local community. So she employed local craftspeople to come and do work. She had a cabinet maker that was doing a whole lot of furniture for her. And with me, we went up to her place, and she basically opened up her treasure chest and she said, "Well, this is all the jewelry that I've got." And she had like collected over like 500 years of the family, was just all this jewelry. And she said, I like this, I don't like that. So she put on a table the ones that she didn't like. And she said, can you reimagine these for me? Take the stones out, use the gold, use the diamonds, give me something that's fresh and modern. And and so she became a fantastic customer. She opened so many doors for me. I made some of the best pieces I've ever made were because she knocked on my door. And I remember one of my fondest memories as I drove up there one day, and it was a 2-hour journey. She was right at the far end of Mid Wales from where I was. And we turned up and she said, oh my God, I'd completely forgotten you were coming. I was just settling down to watch my favourite movie. And she said, do you mind? Would you stay and just watch the movie with me? So basically sat there, and it was Lawrence of Arabia. So which has always been one of my favorite movies. So we sat and we watched that, and she had been to Jordan. She had been to many of the places that were actually in the movie. So we just had this fantastic time, and then I stayed for dinner and everything, and it was just a wonderful experience. And this was someone who just wanted to help the community and the area around her, and because she knocked on my door, she opened the possibilities. I ended up meeting some amazing people, and doing some of the best, well, certainly the most expensive work I've ever done in my life, the highest value work, was done in that 5-year period because of the people that network that I suddenly got sort of welcomed into. And so there's a real sort of, these people are everywhere. And in fact, the Renaissance, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, those great works were all sponsored by the Medici family in Florence. And if the Medici family hadn't supported them, they actually provided lodgings and food and all the financial support that Michelangelo needed to do David, and that Leonardo needed to do his work. And great artists need great patrons, which is a bit of a hobby horse of mine that I try and work on. And in the Bitcoin space, we need great patrons as well, if people want great art.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of different perspectives, and I think we could like go on and on like talking about that, because I sometimes we were talking about this with Rebel some day, that maybe like Bitcoin fulfills that purpose just by existing. So now you can have like a lot of tiny supporters. You don't need like one centralized big supporter, or maybe there are different. Internet also helps a lot with that. Nostr, but we're running.
The Giza, I've got a Giza fundraiser happening right now. I'm sort of testing it out. So yeah, crowdfunding is maybe a way to democratize the process.
Yeah, I think there are more and more technologies and different. I don't know. We can be surprised, and but I do think it's looking brighter and brighter for creative people and artists. And since we are running out of time, so before we go, could you please tell us two things? Where can people find you, or if you want to share that Geyser Fund site, and if you want to share a new project or something new that's coming up?
Yeah, I've got quite a lot coming out. I've got a V for Vendetta artwork that's going to be part of the Satoshi Guy Fawkes versus Fiat, the Nakamoto auction, 5th, 7th of November. So I'm working on that, and that's I actually really love that piece. That's going to look really nice. I'm doing a malachite and rutilated quartz carving or artwork of Bitcoin City in El Salvador. So I'm trying to finish that for the Adopting Bitcoin conference that's happening there, and that's where I'm basically carving the plan of the Bitcoin City into a rutilated quartz gemstone. I have a malachite volcano that's sitting next to it, because the volcanoes in El Salvador are covered in forests. So it's sort of that's a nice piece. Uh, Planning an auction possibly later this month or maybe early November with Scarce Not City. So we're figuring out the pieces there. I'm doing a series of Bitcoin animals right now, and I think it's going to be Bitcoin animal themed. And my Bitcoin bull will be in that auction. That'll probably be the headpiece there. The website is artistsatoshi.com. I'm most active on Twitter. I am on Noster, and working on it. I'm kind of struggling with Noster because I can't. I've been uploading short videos of my work, and I'm running into bandwidth issues with Noster where the relays don't want my videos. So I have to figure out a solution to that problem. But yeah, basically every day I'm on Twitter, connecting with people. On a few Telegram groups as well, the Art of Freedom group, Bitcoin Artists Guild, and 2140, the great initiative, the guys in London who are behind that, and big supporter of that as well. So yeah, I'm around.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and thank you for everyone who joined. And yeah, I hope to talk to you around, and we'll see definitely. And all the success with all your projects, and to everyone to just go have an amazing creative week. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much,
Bye
Flo.
bye.